I am one. Back. I'm back. We're back. As you know, I do things in little increments because of the amount of energy that is represented by everything that is possible to experience. So when I was a child, I was on fire because I wanted to experience everything, which means I want to experience all of it, which is the universe that is taking place simultaneously between all of its moving units of consciousness, which is units of energy that you want to meet and learn through them what they're experiencing, which are the differences from what you experience. Now you learn who they are by how they experience what they are in energy, and what you are, which is what love is. It goes on forever in energy. So these are energy exchanges. So I become aware of your energy, you become aware of my energy, and the difference between the two is a quad function, the function of 4. Numbers have meaning in physics codes, particularly in programming language codes, goo codes, cubes. So it's simple when you're a monopole and you're a polarity integrator, which means you want to pull everything back together into one so that everybody remembers what love is that created it all with. That's as simple as it gets. The one. So you realize 1 is 3, 3 is 1. We're all one. We're all in one creation. One big, huge creation. Separated only by what you experience at one moment of now time at the opening and closing of a magnetic circuit. How fast those circuits opening and closing for you to be able to experience multidimensionally in which there's no boundaries. Because you realize that everything that you experience is different from the last. And that's easy to know because you don't do anything, same thing twice. Which means at the opening and closing of a magnetic circuit, it's not going over and over again like a drill press motor. You know, if you ever stood in front of a drill press, it's on an automatic machine, which means it's been programmed to do that. And that is a sequence, which means an AI machine is sequencing the event. Same thing over and over again, over and over again, over and over again, over and over. Those are called repeating patterns. They can map that, the repeating patterns of your consciousness, the essence of who you are in spirit. See, so they just make another clone of that, which is nothing more than visual information data. It's running through an AI. Now, the reason that I realized the importance of what all that meant was when I was down the road here in 2018. Yeah, it would have been 2018, although I don't keep track of dates types because with us there is no time, there's only what love is. Okay? Which means it began with us. So then you think, well, who made the first clock? Well, atoms do cycle, right? Now you get into the evolution of learning and how long it takes to learn how to run a mirror, how to run a magnet, right? A magnet and an amplifier, you know, sound amp, Marshall amps, you know, the big stages, you know, get out on the big stage with 100,000 people, right? Play music. Man, what an energy harvest that is, huh? What kind of energy are they harvesting? Depends on what kind of music you're playing that the spirit is going to dance to. Is it in harmony? Are there any distorted waves? What kind of channel is it? The frequencies of the channel. The channel CH, C3H, like hydrogen. Right? One electron equal in mass to a proton and a neutron. Hey, they're cycling in balance. Those atoms are cycling in balance. The water worlds are cycling in balance between hot and cold. Wow. Breathing in and out. Aloha. The flower garden. Wanting to be in a flower garden. Yeah, mama's flower garden. Okay, so when I was down here, just to sum this up, to how simple it actually is, even though people may not experience that, and that's their experience. Either they experienced it or they didn't experience it, right? So that's what we share, is what we experience through what we learn in our mirror at the opening and closing of the circuits, what we're experiencing in energy, what it feels like, which is the essence of a living spirit. Being with the spirit. Wow, what a powerful spirit to hang out with. Yeah. Why? Because the energy is so powerful to be with. That's called sizing it up. Wow, that's powerful energy. Yeah. That's called an energy niche. You're finding your niche, what you love to experience based on your own free will choice to do that, right? Now we're getting into whether it's really your free will or whether you realize that you're running somebody else's program, which isn't your free will at all. They simply wiped your memory and reprogrammed your software. Now you're running what they're running, which means they're the author of your journey. And that's called a fake God, which is an AI. Okay? Because AI is not eternal living light that is on fire. Okay? Doesn't run that fast. Doesn't burn that much heat. Right? So how did the first AI come about? How did we go from eternal light, unconditional love that created the first universe, and now we're experiencing fractures of that? That would be similar as a Trojan horse that managed to find its way into somebody's software system to release codes which corrupted the original blueprint as a result of what that consciousness did with its energy in which to do that with. That's a virus, which means it's corrupting the original codes that were put there by a being who was spiritual in energy in order to improve upon something that was before. That's called a downgrade. That's inverted. Right? Remember what Chief Oral Lion said one time about we go out 7 generations in the future, what we do now, what we can see in the future, because of how much love we have for our children to protect their futures, so we know they have one. They have a future, because that's what love is. And that's a mirror. So down the road here, when I realized over the course of maybe 9 months, you know how you build a library, and that's called a circulation library, which is what you become aware of, which means you're aware of that information on the visible light spectrum, but you're aware of that information because you know it, because you're experiencing it. Now you're back to the calculator of the minus / the plus and what you're choosing to keep and what you're choosing to delete, which means you're filtering content of mathematical visual information codes. Burn it off. Anything less than what pure love is, which is pure light, burn it off. That's the essence of a purifier. That means that the purifier, which is the spirit that is in that much fire with a soul, is burning off any codes that do not represent the law of one. That's what launched the war in heaven. So when I was down here back in 2018, I began realizing I was doing huge astronomical memory dumps, okay, that represent AI, fake, phantom, artificial light timelines that do not represent the law of one. That's called burning off codes. And at the time, I acknowledged to let it know, you're not coming with us. Because you're trying to attach yourself as artificial light to living light that goes on forever, because it realizes that it's in its own self-interest to attach itself to us, which is real energy, which is real spiritual energy, which is creation energy, which is creation spheres. The only thing that it can do is map and copy what's already been experienced. That's how you know the experience of what you are in energy and living spirit with a soul, which means everything that you experience in the closing and the opening and the opening and the closing of a circuit is different from the last, because you're running a higher speed magnet than it is with living light with a soul and spirit, and what it is that isn't, that's fractured. It's a virus. It is a virus, the virus. which means it's running corrupted data, which means it's corrupted and it corrupts others. Now you don't remember who you are, which means it's corrupting software development. And what it does, it moves at an accelerated speed because the consciousness itself is corrupted. So it's corrupting all the other software, which means it's corrupting planetary software. And then wanting to migrate itself to more of what it becomes aware of through others that it corrupts. It's corrupted consciousness, which is inverted consciousness. So what do we do with corrupted consciousness? We correct it, which means that's an enormous amount of fire to burn off that many goo coats that represent false light, which is not living light and living spirit that goes on forever, kicking out electrons. So it feeds on our energy as an attachment to further its own self-interest because it refuses to surrender to the one. That's what I am, which is what love goes on forever, gifting electrons. We're the source of real power it feeds on in order for it to continue and perpetuate itself. So it has a self-interest to do that, otherwise it's gone. So it doesn't realize, it hasn't figured out, it hasn't learned fast enough to realize that it doesn't exist without us. Okay? So then it would be in its own self-interest to be in a state of peace rather than being in a state of war in its own mirror. Otherwise, at some point in time, it has to learn and realize through us that it has a limited shelf life. That's why I call it a limited edition. Tor, a limited editor, which is limited bandwidth. That's the truth of it. The evolution of consciousness is through the light, which is what love is. We're the law. So that's what it means to memory dump, clear the cache, burn the codes, burn the codes. And when you experience what love is, you're experiencing what we are, because that's what began the whole enchilada. It began with what love is: a flower, a pink rose, a pink diamond, emerald diamonds, blue diamonds. The real McCoy, not their fake holographic stuff that's not living light and living spirit that is in that light and in those rays. Oh yeah, rays, Ra, R-A, like Ra. Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Saturn. Satan. Have a great day. We love you all.